Good morning, Burbs. My name is Azalira, and we got results from the survey of PSO2 NGS Beta 1. Let's take a look. There's gonna be a lot of fun trivia and a lot of random stuff here and there of oh, people like this, people like that, or oh, this is the classes people play and stuff. So without wasting more time, let's take a look. So first of all, I actually don't know exactly how the PSO2 NGS class leveling and stuff goes, but apparently over 36% of all players did not reach level 10. And then 54%, which seems to be the majority here, actually reaches over level 10, and then only 10% reaches level 15, which I would like to assume here that level 15 is probably the max level. Yeah, I think 15 is the max level for the closed beta, because they didn't say oh, 15 plus, it's just a flat 15. So with that said, the class ratio of the people that played the class is surprisingly 28% of all players overwhelmingly just wanted to play Hunter. That's actually a lot, considering that Hunter is one of the least played class in regular PSO2 right now. Coming in second, of course, is the Force class, which the Force to me was this one class. It kind of feels, I don't know, it looks very, how do you say it feels a bit painful to play, because it's oh, you have so little PP and you have to cast a few spells and then you have to do a few normals. It looks kind of very annoying, but if you're kind of in there and then you have all these skills, for example, all the PP conversion and things, I mean, you should be okay with the PP for the most part, but I'm just surprised that a lot of people were actually really interested in the Force class. Maybe it is due to the fact that Force is a bit more status reliant, and then a lot of the bosses can be stunned from status. Maybe that is the appeal, although we don't know if this is main class, subclass, or something like that, but it might just be, just oh, which classes do you play? Maybe people be yo, I picked main class Hunter and then subclass Force or something, right? So I don't exactly know how they did the entire survey. But next we have Gunner. Now Gunner is one of the ones that I believe should have been a lot higher. I'm actually really surprised that not as many people played Gunner as much as I thought, considering how flashy it is, including the, representation of the Gunner class in Eleanor being super flashy as a character, which I really appreciate, by the way. SEGA, please work on more character design so you can sell the game and then people can sim all over and then make art of your stuff, I think it's a really good marketing tool. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyways, next we have Ranger at 15%, which is super nice. And then again, same, Fighter. We have Fighter at 14%. Why is Fighter at 14%? You saw the reactions to everyone on the NGS reveal and stuff, and everyone's just posting everywhere on Twitter, on 5chan, on all the Japanese website boards, be yo man, it's Fighter, looks so awesome. And then I see all the videos everywhere on Twitter and stuff of dude, Fighter is awesome, right? But then it's 14% is the fifth least played. Yeah, I don't know. And then the last one, of course, is Tekker being the least played at 10%, which kind of is not really surprising, but yeah. So that concludes the class ratio. And then when it comes to the next part of the questionnaire, they ask oh, how many days did you play on the closed beta? So it's oh, did you play for only 1 day? 15% of people did that. Did you play for only 2 days? 20%. And then of course, it played for all 3 days with 65% of all the participants, which is very nice. Now the next part here actually talks about the elements before even starting the game of how people feel. So it's oh, they're not satisfied at all. They don't feel good about it. They're so-so with the gray. Pretty good is the yellow one, and then very good is the orange one. So the first one here reads game download and install and stuff like that. How people are satisfied about that, right? So it's I guess it's so-so, that's fine. Second one is all the title card, the login and stuff. People are also kind of meh-ish about that, more towards on the nice side, but the character creation here is actually more towards the really good side. So yeah. Now here's the thing with the character creation thing, right? Because now we have seen the PSO2 NGS engine running on the regular PSO2, and a lot of the reception has been the fact that oh man, it's so hard to make the NGS face and stuff like that. So maybe I expected a lot of people to complain a little bit more on this end, be Man, it kind of sucks, but maybe, you know, the NGS models on NGS itself will look like 5 times better or something. So yeah, that's actually really nice. Really, really nice. Now, the next part here, people are talking about all the like in-game graphics. Same thing. Are they satisfied or are they not? So the first one is the open field. How are people happy with the open field? Turns out a lot of people are happy with the open field, which is like, very nice. So the next one is of course the enemy graphics. Enemy graphics, also a lot of people are like, yeah, it's nice. Not as overwhelmingly good as the open field, but that's still something. And then the next one is going to be the character graphics effects and stuff like that. So it's like, okay. Yeah, all those threes are just really, really positive in general. But then when it comes to actual like the user interface, a lot of people are more towards like the meh side, because, you know, it is different from the PSO2 that we love and know. And we don't know if they're going to change the interface in the base PSO2 to be like NGS either, but we'll have to see. But yeah, I guess it's just something that a lot of people might have a little bit of confusion with, and maybe it's just a more of like the beginner shock, you know, where you're not used to the new user interface and things like that, that's perfectly fine, because that can be adjusted rather easily, like what I would think so. Now, next one here is the strength and the feeling of each class, of how people felt about the classes. First one here being Hunter. A lot of people seems to be very happy about Hunter in general, which is very nice. Considering, again, in normal PSO2, people are simply just not that happy about Hunter, right? So I'm really happy that Hunter is now having a very nice redemption story in PSO2 NGS. And also Ranger as well. Like, Ranger is one of those classes as well in PSO2 where a lot of people are like, nah, let's not play that class. And I don't say it in like a bad way or anything like that, because I respect people who play multiple classes. I have a lot of friends who play Rangers too, and then they do complain that it's like, oh, the playstyle is very, you can't really move a lot, it's kind of really clunky, it's kind of very everything. And then everyone who played that and then played NGS Ranger is like, yo, this is a godsend. Even New, being one of like the very best Ranger players in the current PSO2 right now, is just like, yeah, NGS Ranger, awesome. He enjoys it a lot, so that's very nice. Now, next one, Force. Seems people are kind of enjoying Force in general, but a lot more are actually not as satisfied. As you can see, the light blue one is a lot higher than the other ones. So that's just some observation. Maybe a lot of people have played Force because they were like, oh, that looks interesting. And then they played it and like, no, it's like clunky as hell. So that's a possibility of it, because as you can see, like the big orange one is also the smallest out of all of them, so a lot of people are just not satisfied. However, in contrary to that, Fighter has the least amount of people being dissatisfied with it, and also the highest amount of people being very satisfied with it. So there you go. See, like I said, people are probably going to enjoy Fighter a lot because it's like the most hype one, right? So that's like one thing. And then Gunner, I guess maybe people are like, yeah, it's pretty good, so because it's more or less kind of like the same as the regular PSO2 Gunner, which is not a bad thing, because it keeps that feeling of familiarity, but it might also be the fact that people are expecting more from it, you know? And then lastly, Tekker, which I think has a pretty good average. So I guess overall, everyone likes just about everything except for like Force, I guess, being one of the least like liked. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the near future. The next part here talks about tasks in the game, aka the new version of client orders. So the first one talks about like how clarified the tasks are, aka like how I can't even speak, how much clarity there is for like the client orders. So like, oh, does the NPC exactly tell you this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do that? Like, if people are not confused by that, then yeah, it's pretty solid, right? A lot of people are like, yeah, man, it's whatever. And then the next one is the difficulty of these tasks. So a lot of people are, again, also very meh about it and whatnot. And then the last one is the pointers. So like, how do you say it? When you select like a client order and stuff, there's like the guides or pointers to be like, oh yeah, you gotta go do this, you gotta go do that. I guess that is like one thing that they didn't do so well, because it seems a lot of people are kind of like towards the side for it, which nothing wrong with that. Like, once again, right? It's feedback that the devs are getting, and then they can use it to improve on the game in the near future. Now this one is more towards the exploration side of things. So the first one is the frequency of like how much enemies appear and stuff in the game. So as you might notice from like a lot of videos and things like that, is the fact that the enemy is not as high in number as much as in PSO2. So it's more you have to fight each enemy more methodically rather than just being like, oh hey, it's an udon, let's just smack it in the face like 2 times and it's just dead, right? Or like you don't get those like big crowds of like mobs, rather you get a few enemies and stuff. So a lot of people are kind of like meh about that because I guess they kind of feel like it should be fine, or maybe it's just still in the very early game of things. And then now the second one is one of my biggest personal concerns in that, hey, we got to do a lot of gathering. So what this gathering thing is the fact that like, oh, you want to unlock your weapon potential? You got to go collect like photon crystals and things like that. So there's a lot of comments apparently in the beta that a lot of people are like, man, these spawns are so annoying, or like the frequency of the spawns is not good enough, or something like that. So that's exactly what they're going to be adjusting in the next beta coming out. And then the third one here is like, oh, the map design, terrain design, and things like that. So I guess people are kind of like pretty okay with it, with over 60% being pretty happy with it overall. So yeah, that's pretty nice. And then the next one is going to be COCOON quests. So people are like, yeah, COCOONs, I guess, is that like the new instant quest and stuff like that? And yeah, it is. Although this questionnaire only talks about like specifically the tower quest, which I actually posted on my channel a little bit back if you haven't seen that. So this is just asking about, hey, is the tower like easy to find and stuff like that, like the ease of accessibility. And then the second one is the amount of like strategy needed to clear, or like how fun it is to people. So people are like so-so about all that. And then the third one is of course the difficulty. People are also more in the mixed zone about that. I think one of the biggest issues with the COCOONs is the fact that it's one of those quests where you just have to clear once to get the skill points, and then that's literally it. There's basically no other reason to do it except for like, say, time attack, or you just want to play it for fun. So I suppose that it's kind of okay. Maybe there's like a prompt where like, oh, you need like this difficulty, or like you need not the difficulty, but like you need this kind of gear to clear it, because the video that I posted, right, was like a level 7 character versus like a level 15 COCOON quest or something like that. So the difficulty was quite, you know, jarring when it comes to that. But like a lot of people who has been posting a lot of like the other COCOON videos as well has a lot higher level and a lot higher gear, which allows them to clear the COCOON in a very, very fast manner. So I guess you can say the difficulty can really vary between player to player. So maybe that's one of the things where it might be a little bit difficult to judge, but I guess if it's just a progression point, there's not much replayability, right? So I think that would be more of an issue. Now, this one talks about the emergency trials that comes out in the open fields and stuff like that. So the first question here asks about like, oh, the clarity of like the prompts and stuff like that. How easy is it to understand all these trials? So people are like, okay, that's fine. And then how satisfied are they with like the difficulty of the quest, the trials, and like all the whatnot. So people are like, yeah, everything's like meh, because it's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's literally just like emergency trials, right? So the devs are saying like, you know, maybe it might be a little too low in difficulty, because like when the number of participants are really, really big, it's very easy for it to be easy. So maybe they can make it more scaling towards like, oh, how many people are in the area and things like that. So to make the trials more difficult, because a lot of players are like, yeah, it's pretty easy. Yeah. And then this one as well, a lot of people are just like, oh, this is about the emergency quest, by the way, or well, urgent quest, sorry. A lot of people have a lot of complaints apparently about like the matching system of the urgent quests. As you can see, like the blue bar is almost like over 50% of people are just like not happy with the matching system. I'm not entirely sure why, but maybe it's just like people just can't match or something like that. And then people are just saying like, yeah, the difficulty is, yeah, it's whatever, right? So yeah, that's just like one of those things where it's just like, they're going to be adjusting a lot of things for sure for this one, because what's the point in playing a multiplayer game if you can't match properly with people, right? Yeah. Okay. Anyways, next part is just the new features and stuff that are added to NGS. How satisfied are people with, in order, the gliding, the photon dash? Those are movement options. It's pretty good overall. Third one is the multi-weapons system. So a lot of people are kind of like meh on it as well, but a lot of people are also thinking it's very, very nice, which is very good. Recur devices, for the fourth one, recur devices are the teleports. So like, oh, this is like the teleport point where you can just teleport to this recur device over here, over there, and stuff like that. And also the fun fact is Ryuker is actually a spell name from the original Phantasy Star, which is like a teleportation spell. So it's very nice to see it back in PSO2 New Genesis, right? Because Ryuker did not exist in the normal PSO2 that we have right now. Anyways, next one, apparently there's this system called like the mag sonar or something like that. I don't know what it is. I don't think I've seen it either. I guess people just didn't really like it because maybe a lot of people just didn't know how it worked. So that's like understandable. And then the last one, of course, is like all the communication features and whatnot, which is okay, as usual. You know, all the lobby actions, all the symbol art and stuff is all back. So that's perfectly fine. But I guess the reception of a lot of these things are generally either in the so-so or like in the positive parts. So that is pretty good in general. And then the last section here is just talking about the general concerns about people and like what concerns do people have. And the very first thing is, of course, the capacity of the game, because NGS, right, you have to also have PSO2, which is going to be 70 gigabytes plus the NGS itself, which starts at 30 gigabytes and it's only going to be bigger. Like, I actually had a bet with a friend. I'm just saying, like, you know what, by the end of like 2022 the game's gonna probably be like 150 gigabytes because they're just gonna add more and more and more content. It's just like how normal PSO2 started off at like what, 20 gigabytes, and now it's like 70 gigabytes. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty big, all things considered. And then yeah, so right now it's like the whole game is exactly 100 gigabytes, and that's a big concern for a lot of people because, you know, if you have like a 250 gigabyte SSD or something like that, having this game on the SSD is already 100 gigabytes out of that. So it's like, yeah, that's a bit painful. So that's a bit of a concern that people have, because right, that PSO2 NGS is connected to PSO2 and things like that. So yeah, they're trying to see if like there's a way of like, hey, maybe people are only interested in playing just NGS, so maybe they can reduce the capacity that the game needs, or like some people who only play PSO2 don't want to install the NGS part and stuff like that. So it's like vice versa, you know. Maybe they can do something like that of like optional installs. It's just like how Call of Duty Modern Warfare had like the issue with, I think it was like Warzone, where people are like, man, if you just want to play Warzone, why do you have to install like, you know, the single player, the normal multiplayer, the everything? And it's just like the huge disk space fiasco, right? So yeah, I think it's a good option for having like the install options for people who may not have as much hard drive or solid state drive SSD space. So that's a good thing if they're going to be addressing all of that, in my opinion. Now, the next one is also a concern that I also had in the number of enemy appearances. Number meaning like, how do you say it? The frequency of like, or well, mob density is probably the better idea, because you know how PSO2 is like a bit of like hack and slash, like you just go through like a bunch of enemies and things like that, and like people are like, man, you know, you can have multi-party areas up to like 32 people, and then there's just not enough enemies, man. So yeah, that is just something that people are just like thinking of, because I believe that the devs were like designing the whole thing for only like 8 people MPAs and things like that. But when it comes to like a bigger party, or even just on the 8 people MPA, is that enemies just die too fast, and then what are they gonna do, right? Because the density is so low. So that's just like one thing that they might be looking at in the near future. But yeah. And then of course, the very last one here is people are like, dude, we just want to play like the open field in the game and stuff like that, and then suddenly like the emergency quest spawns in the area you're currently exploring, and it's like, can you not please? Because it is kind of annoying where the emergency quest is like, it can just spawn anywhere, right? And then you have to like, oh, you have to go to this area to participate in the emergency quest, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of annoying. It's like, oh, I can't be on the other side of the map doing stuff because I have to go to the emergency, because otherwise I'll have to wait for people and then match, and then maybe I don't get match and I don't get the clear or stuff like that. So we'll have to see that if people are gonna if they're gonna adjust anything with the emergency or urgent quest system in the near future, because it is something that people have been concerning since the normal PSO2 as well, is that the urgent quest schedule and stuff like that being really bad for some people sometimes. So they maybe they can design a system where like the urgent quests can be more like alleviated with progress, right? You don't have to like only have to do like the emergency or like the urgent quest for the progress. So it's like, yeah, people want to move forward without having to be like, oh, I have to play it this time, I have to play it that time. People just want to play the game whenever. So yeah, that is one thing that may be definitely improved. And the very last thing is, would you be playing the official release? Now, 80% of people, of course, is like, yeah, man, I think I'm definitely going to play the game. And then 19 people are like, yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to play NGS or not. It's like, and then 1% of the survey is like, nah, I'm not going to play NGS. So yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty solid survey, and we got quite a bit of like information on how people feel about the entirety of like the game, the new system, the classes, yada 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 yada. And then this also gives the devs a lot of information on what they should be improving on. So with NGS beta number 2 coming very, very soon, I believe we will probably have another survey after that. So let's, you know, it's 120k people, sorry, yeah, 120,000 people overall. So we gotta give the devs a lot of good feedback so that they can actually improve on the game and then actually just make the game on release the best possible version of the game. So with that, we'll see what changes too much, like, well, what changes, if at all, from it, like beta 1 and 2, because officially, initially they said that they weren't going to change the contents for 1 and 2, but because there was the delay and everything like that, maybe the contents from 1 and 2 will now change. So we will see what happens. But anyways, hope you enjoyed my little rambling talking about like this whole survey and my opinions on it. I'm sorry if there's like not too much visually going on the screen, because I'm just like trying to talk about everything. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that, and that's about it. Don't forget to smile and take care of yourselves, okay? And I'll see you on the next video.